So we are the digital overlay team, and this week, once again, we interviewed 10 people, bringing our total to 39. We've been in touch with our sponsor and mentor, Charles Lee, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in a bit. Our how might question is, how might we fully understand the flow of information through the chain of command?
So I'm Mark, an engineering major.
Elizabeth, nursing.
Teresa, writing.
Nahum, engineering.
Anthony, CIS, consultant biology.
So this week, again, we gathered a lot more information, but in particular, we highlighted a few things that we recovered from, like, retired military and intelligence analysis contacts. We want to look further into, like, SWEET-B, keeping in mind the security stuff we need to do when we create our product. We also want to look through a lot of the filtration methods and sharing of information between different platforms, including social media.
So one of the hypotheses we had for this week is we really wanted to confirm our knowledge on the information flow process, like through the chain of command. So like specifically who's involved, what are their roles, and we really got a really good interview from contact number 34. He was a retired general. He was able to really elaborate on each specific role, their responsibilities, and how they all like work together.
Our next hypothesis is data easily communicated through different allies and branches of the military, and Mark touched on it a little bit with contact number 34. But he gave an example of a scenario in which he was in Korea, and that they weren't even able to communicate with the allies. They had no contact with the ally, like the local forces that were on their side, and that was a big problem point that he made. And he can give a scenario from 2011, I believe, in which the systems and technologies that even in a joint operation were not compatible with one another. So the Army's systems were not compatible with the Marines' systems. And so that was another point he made.
Our third hypothesis is kind of unknown. So we need to really narrow our scope. So it is our problem a data visualization problem or a data aggregation problem? And we still don't know. So we're hoping to gather more information on our trip to Fort Lee when we talk with our users. So we're planning on developing more precise questions and requesting like samples and examples to work through.
So we have planned the trip for Fort Meade, and we are leaving tomorrow morning bright and early at 6 a.m.
So we've specified our beneficiaries just slightly more. Our intelligence analysts, we've listed out the specific ones that we are developing for. And one of the value propositions for the intelligence analyst is to coordinate with officers to make an entire plan.
Okay, so based off of our interviews with more and more commanders closer to what our end user will be, we've updated our value proposition canvas to better reflect their pains and gains that they will experience in the field.
Our beneficiary archetypes, all the characteristics are the same, but we've kind of honed in on what exactly the officer's rank would be.
So within battalion command and kind of using the comments to visually aid, imagine like a battalion commander walking into a decision-making process where he has to come up with a plan for an operation, and he's relying on, say, S2s to kind of provide him that intel and kind of like the information he needs to inform his decision-making process to therefore make the best plan possible. But because of an information overload headache and not being able to kind of sift through the data to gain that insight that would make the plan-making process pivot and change in direction, he's unable to or she is unable to make the best plan possible. So how can we help the commander make the best plan possible through gaining insight a lot easier through data?
And again, here's our customer workflow. The main difference between this one and the last one is we've got a little bit more specified with like the S2 and the S3, like the specific roles and like what they do. Mainly the S2 is essentially developing an enemy persona for the intelligence group, and then the S3 is taking that enemy persona and coming up with sequels as they were described by contact number 34, and like really like they're basically like alternative plans to counteract that enemy persona and like develop like how like a plan of action, like a course of action, like a counterattack per se. And essentially it's the same flow of information like through the command group and ultimately through the commander.
So based off that, we've updated our minimum viable product. We will take in raw digital data. We're hopefully going to have examples of that, what exactly they're getting soon. Something that takes aggregation or aggregates this data, plots the relationship, the frequency of these relationships, and then puts it out in a form that is easily, quickly grasped and comprehended to allow them to make decisions fast in a real-time environment.
And to better elaborate on kind of like the what that experience of seeing the data is like, these are kind of like simple notes of, you know, what's the population or kind of the mood of a certain area or location like, and then as my plan or the Battlefield Commander's plan takes place, you'll see different movements of nodes into different zones, such as, you know, these people are kind of threats, and these used to be supporters, but after I started showing my presence, all of a sudden people are moving to this side of the graph, and more people are showing, and then if I wanted to, I could click on a node, and then I'll see like the population or kind of like more information based off the data.
And then as far as next week goes, we plan to go to Fort Meade tomorrow morning. We also look to get a little bit more narrowed down scope, specifically like what types of data we're going to be needing to include and how we're going to make sense of that data in a better, more effective way. With that, that's all we have.
Right.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Why did you change your MVP?
We would like to, I think, our sponsor, I think, in the program as well, they're looking for like a variety of kind of MVPs, and as we gain more insight and more information, we just feel like it's natural for our MVP to change because we have more insight. So if we come up, if we already have like the MVP that's going to solve the problem at the beginning, then we wouldn't be doing 10 more interviews or more a week.
I wanted to say I like the pivot on your MVP. Something that I heard which was really interesting was this question about information versus communication of information. Is that reflected on your customer pains or your beneficiary pains? Information overload. That sounds like really.
That would be on our. We have 3 general types. So there's like a commander, then an intelligence analyst, and then a a private company PV chart PVC. So that would be in the intelligence analyst thing.
Okay. Just curious how that may fit into your evolution of your MVP in the future. Just something to think about. If that is a really, that seems like that could be a pinch point or a significant pain point in that.
Yeah, sure.
Good.
Is that the end of your time?
No, that was the end of their presentation. We have more time for feedback.
More feedback?
More feedback?
I have a little piece of feedback, and this is a general piece, not just to use for moving here. I'd like to know what the most important or the highest ranking ratings and gains are in your value proposition canvas. So if they are ranked according to what you have identified as being the most important or the most painful pain or the most important gain, let us know that. If not, then do it. And then as you're going forward, make sure that your MVPs are addressing those pains and gains and be explicit. And that's not just for you all. That's for everyone.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but each PVC has a specific like target person that it like represents. So would there's like one like pain specifically from one group and then another pain that's like our number 2 from a different group? How would we make that determined? Just like
So you can tell us that you are synthesizing pains and gains in what you're presenting, but that you're doing this for every. I think that you need to be doing it for every single beneficiary,
Yes.
every single even remotely potential end user in your life of this. You should have 20 of these. You should have one of these every interview that you have. Like I'm not delusional. I know you're not doing that, but like if you thinking about that, that's ideal. So if you're synthesizing it, that's fine, just let us know. I think that the clearer that bit of communication is better.
You're gonna have to make a choice based on pain and value, which, if you have different ones for each client, which one are you gonna solve? What you're gonna move to an MVP, which one is it? Is it the battalion commander's pain point that you're gonna solve, or the intel analysts, if they're different? And you gotta decide and have a good justification for that. We're gonna ask you to start thinking about, like, what's your MVP?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this later. We've asked you to expand out your understanding of the problem. You're going to have to make a pivot and pretty soon focus in on what are the major pains, who are the primary beneficiaries we're going to focus on, because you're not going to be able to solve all of it.
And that's why you've been, like, really trying to define the problem and talking to a lot of folks, is because everybody's got a little bit different opinion, but you're trying to narrow it down to say, we've talked to 150 people, and this is not everybody's top, but this is the top 3 for everybody we talk to, or top 5 for everybody we talk to. So it's that kind of reasoning that gets you to solve the problem that gets at most of, you're going to have more customers ready to pay for that product by doing it that way. So that's.
But you're in a much better position to do that now than you were last week. This is really coming together, much clearer story emerging here. So I think you're in a good position to start to pivot and start to really focus in on a particular audience. That's a good work.
Good work. Yep.
That it? That's it. Okay. 1, 2, 3.